Alrighty, guys. This is Andrew the White Kid 47.
I'm being antisocial.
I'm Andrew the White Kid 47 Network. We're here with David Atkins and Charles Dunbar. We're going to interview Charles Dunbar first because he's got somewhere to get to in half an hour.
I'm doing a panel at 6 called The First Anime. Guess what that's about?
The second anime?
Star Wars. Can you blame me? I saw Force Awakens like 3 hours ago. I just got back from seeing Force Awakens. Again, for like the 5th time.
Without spoiling it, what would you do?
In what way?
Without spoiling it.
I don't think there is a way to say anything about it without spoiling it.
No, there's no way. All right, we're just gonna start the questions before we get every Star Wars.
By the time this airs, everyone will know the spoilers.
Oh,
Everyone
that's
knows
true.
the spoilers now.
That's true.
What? No, we gotta bleep that out. No, okay.
And Soylent Green is made of people.
Han Solo is a beautiful man. Oh gosh, okay. All right.
That's not how the Force works.
No, this is gonna go bad. I'm sorry, Star Wars fans. I'll make sure I'll bleep every single one of this out.
No.
All right. Mr. Dunbar,
What up?
what started you in this convention industry? In the convention industry?
A mistake.
Please do explain.
No, okay. It's weird. When I was in grad school, I was doing my master's thesis on conventions as a way of getting out of grad school. I wish I could say that it was one of these things that came to me in my youth and I decided to spend all my time studying. No, I literally needed to graduate. They told me you have 1 year to come up with a thesis proposal. And I got really angry and I started talking about how much I liked conventions and it snowballed. And that is literally how it started. I did field work. I did an enormous amount of field work. And I started doing panels as a way of capturing my audience. So you're in the room listening to me speak. Hey guys, while you're at it, survey. And it worked. And then when I graduated college and I was done with conventions, the conventions wouldn't let me leave. They literally said, so what are you giving this year? Well, I can't really do this anymore. I don't have funding anymore. I'm graduated. What if we gave you all this? Would you come? Why not? I like conventions. And then it literally got to the point where they don't let me leave. I'm serious. I have conventions that all tell me you need to slow down. I did 29 conventions this calendar year.
Jeez.
29. Technically, this is 30 because it's still 2015.
Yes, it
This
is.
is 30.
Happy New Year's Eve. by the
Last
way.
year on New Year's Eve, I was sitting in this hotel getting ready for Ichibancon. This year on New Year's Eve, it is Ichibancon.
Yes.
So this is convention number 30 this year. But the thing is, every convention I do agrees I need to cut back, but they don't want to be the con I have to cut.
Yeah.
That sounds
Familiar.
That sounds familiar. I mean, 30 conventions. How do you like keep up with do you get breaks at all? Like,
No. Oh, no. This year I had, let's see, I did 30. Okay, I had 34 weekends this year where I was out of town. 4 of those weekends I was in Japan, but 34 weekends this year I was out of town. Out of 52. Every other one of those assorted weekends, which was usually 1 or 2, or in the case of May, most of the month, I was at home. But that didn't mean I really had breaks. I don't have breaks. I have
Breaks you get is to literally get preparing.
I
for the next.
have 1 week off in January, 1 week off in February, no weeks off in March, no weeks off in April, and then I have a couple of weeks off in May, then no weeks off in June, then a couple weeks off in July. Like July and August are looking kind of light for me right now, but that can change. And that's usually how it goes. I don't have a whole lot of downtime. And this year, whatever downtime I had was devoted to going to Japan. So,
how was Japan? Like, what'd you do in Japan? Like, what did you do in Japan? Like, did someone invite you, or you just decide, oh, what the heck, just go over there?
I have a friend who lives over there who's been trying to get me out there for years. I jokingly said to him last Halloween, hey, why don't we go September of next year? I'm not doing anything. Let's go out and I go to Japan. So I blocked it off. Funimation paid for my flight. I crowdfunded the bulk of the trip. I flew out there and I spent 3 weeks going everywhere. Like 10 days in Tokyo with one friend. Took the train up to the north to see a folklore festival. Took the train all the way out to Osaka to spend a week with another friend. Then took the train to Yonago to go visit some stuff up in the northwest. Took the train back to Tokyo and came back to New York. My friend Tomoaki jokingly said I saw more of Japan in a month than most Japanese see in their entire lives. And I got a chance to tour and travel, and like the one thing that I didn't get to do, I'm gonna do next September. So I'm gonna go back next year and do like the one thing I haven't done yet. So it's been very busy, it's been very crazy, and it was a great trip. I mean, I have 1 or 2 regrets, but by and large, I got a chance to do one of those once in a lifetime, let's take a look at everything trips. And like the folklore festival I discovered was happening there, so I went. I got the chance to see the giant Gundam in Odaiba. I got a chance to carry a shrine in a local festival. I got a chance to visit some of the biggest shrines in the country. I got a chance to do all sorts of crazy fun stuff. And it's kind of thing that it took an entire year's worth of planning, raising money, and making it so that I had a perfect schedule that I could adhere to. And it worked.
That sounds interesting. I mean, I really want to go at least like Japan, and like I've been to South Korea, but like that was a layover for 6 hours. I don't know why I wanted to go to Japan, but apparently it would have cost $200 more on the ticket.
It's not that expensive. People think like, oh, Japan is expensive. I booked my flight. I think 6 months out. I booked it in March, and I got Singapore Air. Because I didn't have the money for a direct flight. Those are from New York. Those are like $1,700, $1,800. I decided to do a layover flight. And my options were $850 layover in Hong Kong.
That'd be nice.
A little over $1,000 layover in LA. And the only reason I took the LA was, one, Singapore Air is the best airline to fly. The food is great. The service is great. It's very comfortable planes. I didn't have to worry about anything. It was a really great flight. But also, a 12-hour layover in Hong Kong requires you to still go through customs, and they sometimes don't let you leave the airport. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to deal with that. I'd rather, instead of flying 16 or 17 hours to Hong Kong, then doubling back, I did 6 hours to LA, stayed in LA overnight, and then took a 12-hour flight to Japan. And it was just easier on the body. But even that was a little over $1,000. And when you get to Japan, the food is super cheap. I thought Tokyo, everyone told me, Tokyo's like New York, Tokyo's like New York. It is like New York, but not in this way I was thinking. It's like New York in the fact that everyone there is self-absorbed and they don't give a damn who you are. They keep to themselves when you don't annoy them, and they're really great to talk to when you've shown an interest in what they're doing. They will direct you where you want to go. A lot more people speak English than you think. It felt like being in New York, but it was a lot cheaper than being in New York. A full meal for like $3.50.
Not to mention they speak English because they're taught in school now.
Nope. That is a misconception. A lot of people take English in Japan and do not understand a thing about it. They actually are trying to redo their English education system right now. And a lot of people say we took English in school, but it's just drills. Can you speak a language through drills?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a lot of people in the major cities like Osaka and Tokyo, if you want to work in a convenience store or in fast food, you need to know English, because those cities like Osaka and Tokyo cater to a lot of Westerners. Yeah. So what I learned is 7-Eleven. That's where you get most of your coffee, your groceries, and your meals. You need to be bilingual to work there. So the people that work there speak really good English. A lot of the people in the transit boxes speak good English. If you want to work for the post office, you have to speak English. So when you're in a major city, it is very easy to get around knowing no Japanese. Now, if you speak Japanese, they are very happy that you do, and they really appreciate that you try. And that's really cool. And then when you go into the countryside, it's a little different.
Like Hokkaido, or
I didn't go to Hokkaido,
worse?
but I'm talking like if you go to like Tono, or you go to like Yonago is the capital of Tottori Prefecture.
Right.
That place is very Japanese.
Okay.
But you can at least get by if you have to. I stayed in Yonago for 4 days and it was fine. But you need to know some Japanese, but you'll find how easy it is to get around when you don't speak any Japanese. And a lot of the Japanese people that I met, they were just really happy that someone took an interest in their culture outside of Akihabara. A lot of people, when I explained why I was going to Tono, I had to explain I was there for Yanagita Kunio, I was there for the festival. And the ryokan I was staying at, When I told them that I'd read Tono Monogatari and I read Yanagita Kunio and I have an interest in that, they were just completely blown away that I knew that.
Yeah.
And I just said, this is what I enjoy. And that when you're in Japan, you get yourself that little rail pass for like a few $100s. Go wherever, go everywhere. Don't just use it to stay in one place. Go everywhere. And you'll see that you're going to get very interesting experience going through that country. And it was very much a sobering, like, it's cheap, it's plentiful, it's very friendly, it's very accessible. I mean, accessibility is just through the freaking roof. And all you have to do is understand that it's a very big country on a very small island, and you can have an enormous amount of fun.
Yeah.
I really like. I feel like that's like my dream. I mean, there's that, and then there's the United Kingdom, like London. But I feel like Japan is like.
Easy. London is New York expensive.
Yeah, see, London is expensive. You got all those posh places.
The United Kingdom
There is nothing cheap.
Obscenely overpriced.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you get outside of London, the value is there. The dollar has more buying power than the pound, but the value prices tend to level off. Like, you can get, at a standard 2-to-1 ratio, you can get a decent meal for about $8, that's pretty good when you get outside of London. Inside London, no, that's New York. In Japan, it's very standardized. Like, the most I spent on a meal while I was there, I was in Akiba with some friends, and they said, you need to go to this tonkatsu place. It's the best tonkatsu in the galaxy. I waited online for 45 minutes. The tonkatsu was about $22, but it was worth it. Most of the time, if I spent more than 500 or 600 yen on a meal, it's because I was trying to. And 600 yen is about $4, $4.50. So you need to try to spend money on things like that. I mean, then you start to develop, like, well, you can buy your food from 7-Eleven. You can buy your food from, like, what's Yoshinoya, which is like it's not their version of McDonald's, but the beef bowl is like fast food, and just boom, just go to Yoshinoya, and you're not going to spend a whole lot of money, but you're going to get a great amount of food, and you're going to get a great value. Like, I went to Japan expecting to spend $2,500 over 3 weeks, $1,300, $1,420 tops.
Yeah.
And that was with me buying a lot of otaku crap.
Trust me, he tried.
If you don't, I actually had a 10,000 yen note in my pocket, and I said, I don't want to come home with this. This was the last of my $1,500 conversion. I don't want to come home with this 10,000 yen note. And at the airport, I cashed it in because I could find nothing worth spending it on.
Wow.
I bought all the video games I wanted, all the figures I wanted, all the manga I wanted, all the omamori I wanted. I bought this little yokai watch carrying case. I bought a bunch of stuff, and I had to try to spend the money I came there with.
Right.
If you go there with the budget mentality, you could probably you can do a month for $500.
Wow.
And my friend was there, went to Osaka, booked a lightning deal. $1,200 flight and 7 nights in a hotel. For $1,200. Direct flight from New York to Osaka.
Wow.
So yeah, if you're saying I'm not going to Japan because it's too expensive,
Do it.
Do your research.
Do your research. Book in advance.
Yep.
Don't book the next day.
book it 6 to 7 months out, you'll be fine.
I don't care what trip you do, you don't do it immediately. That's just, no.
You want to pay $5,000 for something that's usually $17,000?
I'm
Sure.
doing my travel tips panel this weekend, but sometimes I do a Japan travel tips panel where I explain how I booked my trip, and that's going to be interesting. Like, I always get people saying, but I thought Japan was expensive. The flight can be, but if you know how to mess around with travel sites, if you
Plus, there's a lot of travel agencies.
If you can set aside $2,000, you can go to Japan for like 2 weeks. If you can set aside $2,000, you can get 2 weeks in Japan.
Well, then that's interesting. So if you got $2,000 laying around, go to Japan.
It is one of those trips that will change the way you see everything.
Yeah.
Right. Alrighty then. Let's go to a next question here. What is your favorite anime, music, and movie? And do you have one that is your worst?
Let's see. My favorite anime list currently sits with Cowboy Bebop, because Cowboy Bebop, Kill la Kill, and anyone who's seen me talk about Kill la Kill in the last 2 years knows why. I just got a friend into it recently. Beck Mongolian Chop Squad. That series, the music.
What is that?
It's a show about a kid named Yukio Tanaka, Koyuki, who is really into Western rock. And he forms a band with a bunch of other people who are influenced by like 90s alternative. The entire anime is a love song to 90s alt rock. Like Koyuki dresses like Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
They've got references to the Ramones and the Pixies and all of this kind of like 90s alt rock. And it shows like how music culture, particularly Western music culture, has influenced the youth of Japan. And their goal is to create the greatest band ever in Japan. The manga actually takes them through the whole thing. The series gets to the point where they travel to America and play for American audiences. It is the single best English dubbed series I've ever seen. The music is spot on, it's flawless. The pacing is flawless. It's one of those shows where you can watch the whole thing, then go right back to the first episode and watch it all over again. And if you have like, well, I mean, I'm wearing a No Doubt shirt, so you obviously know that I like 90s alt rock. If you like 90s alt rock, if that was your generation, you're gonna go through this being like, I know that band, I know what they're talking about, let's do this. And that one, it's an unsung hero. People, when you bring up Beck, they're like, I may have heard of that, and then you're like, no, you watch this show, you watch this anime. It's 26 episodes, and it's amazing. The soundtrack is amazing. I bought the soundtrack when I was in Akihabara, and the guy behind the counter looks at it, Beck, and he's like, rock and roll. I'm like, brainstorm, and we just started laughing because it's like, you didn't speak a lot of English, I didn't speak a lot of Japanese, but you knew what I was talking about. It's a great show. It's a really great series, and it's one of those that doesn't pop up every now and then, but I will go to my grave talking about how great that show is. Yeah. In terms of worst,
look at that face.
Oh, the face.
I don't know. There's a lot of ones that could be quantified. I think worst is a judgment call based on the kinds of shows you want to watch. I mean, I'm not a big fan of certain shows, but that doesn't mean that they're the worst. I mean, Mad Bull's pretty bad. Mad Bull's pretty bad. I think that's pretty much given a common. I think that's a common acceptance is that Mad Bull sucks. But I mean, it's hard to judge a worst. I mean, you know what you like and you know what you don't like. I'm not a huge fan of Bleach, but a lot of people love it.
Yeah.
Not a huge fan of Naruto, but a lot of people love it. I mean, I've never seen an episode of Fairy Tail, but a lot of people love it. So, I mean, it's always a judgment call. I mean, you make your judgments based on what you want. I have a certain flavor I like from my shows, and there's a bunch of shows that I absolutely adore that I guarantee people have never heard of and have no opinion of if here or there. Like, for example, Outlaw Star. If you're from the 90s otaku generation, you mention Outlaw Star, people know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You mention it to a kid, what's that?
Yeah.
It's like Cowboy Bebop, but the spaceship looks like a penis and testicles.
It did.
And it has hands.
It did.
And there's fantasy in it.
Penis and testicles.
The robot looks like an erect penis with testicles.
All right, let's look at that right now. It's a penis.
Yes, it is a giant phallic
Penis
symbol.
with balls.
A giant phallic symbol.
Penis.
Yes, the Outlaw Star is a huge phallic symbol. I didn't pick that one up until years after I'd first seen the show.
And he's the perfect anti-villain before there was such a thing.
It's a great show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, that's a show that not a lot of people have heard of. Yeah. But that was really big in like 99, 2000. It was on Toonami. It was on Adult Swim. That's where I watched it. I love it. I watch it every couple of years. I just pop that thing in and I watch it. I'm like, this is such 90s.
I still think it's kind of
It's
odd.
got a cat girl in it, for Christ's sake.
I know, but
it's 90s.
It's odd that he's the hero, saves the universe, and is still put in prison.
Are we talking about the same show?
Don't you remember the last episode?
Yeah, they get in the Outlaw Star and go looking for the Galactic Ley Line. Or rather, they find it and they don't care.
After he gets out of jail.
Yeah, I mean...
After he gets out of jail.
It's the 90s. It's the 90s. Dude, it's the 90s. 90s anime is its own thing.
Yeah, I know.
I bring up as evidence as Exhibit 2, Vision of Escaflowne. Also has a cat girl in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you know my age is showing.
Yeah.
His age is showing, people. Don't run. All right, just a couple more questions here. Okay. Everyone has a favorite game, but what is your worst game? The worst game you've ever played?
Video game?
Yes.
That's also a very good question. Worst video game I have ever played. I am trying to think of all the bad games I've played. I mean, to tell you the truth, I've played E.T. and I don't hate it.
Right.
No.
Let's focus since we're at anime.
You know what?
Anime manga.
An anime manga game?
Or a Japanese importer, in that realm.
I mean, when it comes to terrible games, you know what game I really didn't like and I really wanted to? Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. I wanted to like that game. I really wanted to like that game, and I hated every second of playing it.
Yeah.
I didn't like the slot system. I didn't like the way the missions were set up. I didn't like the storytelling in it. I mean, I just couldn't stand that game. I waited so long for another Final Fantasy VII game, and what I got, I hated. Not a huge fan of that. I just got back into Kingdom Hearts, but at this point, Kingdom Hearts is considered such a megalith, I don't care about that either. But, like, I mean, I've also played Lum No Love, which is a terrible platformer, but for some respects is very addictive. But it's an Urusei Yatsura game where you're running through a school trying to escape the flames that are about to burn the school up, and you're running around and jumping with this weird little music playing in the background, and it's Lum growing up, and it's not a great game, it's a reskin, but it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, that's when you talk about like horrible games, those are the ones that pop into my mind. I also wasn't a very big fan of Knights of the Old Republic 2, but nobody was. Nobody was.
Yet there's an online version, I think, right now.
Old Republic is fine, KOTOR is fine. KOTOR 2, you can tell that someone dropped the ball on that one. I think
Space Marines.
I think they shipped it before it was finished, and that was the problem. The ending makes no sense.
It's one of those games.
Yeah, the ending makes no sense. It was great up until like the last 2 hours, and then it just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, all right. All right, last question here, because I know you got a panel at 6 here. You got to go prep for it.
I gotta go prep.
As a writer, a lot of people give advice about inspiration. So, where would your inspiration come from?
It's all lightning in the bottle with me. Everything I do is it always hits me when I'm not expecting it. When I try to inspire myself, it never works. Like, my last big inspiration hit was Kill la Kill, and it was literally me sitting in a Starbucks watching the show, and then all of a sudden I started getting a connection for it. Everything I've ever written, everything I've ever watched, ever did a presentation about, it's always been something that hit me at one moment where I wanted to know something more, and I start reading, I start watching, I start researching, and it just comes from there. I can't pinpoint when, I can't pinpoint how, I just know that it's going to happen. So I always keep my eyes open, and I always look for that next thing that's going to grab me and inspire me. Because it's going to hit you when you're not looking for it. But that's how I do it. Some people need like dream journals, and they need all these ways like free writing to get their ideas. For me, it just kind of happens. Everything in my life is it just sort of happens. And I'm grateful for it in the end. So that's the best advice I can, is never lock yourself off, never close yourself off, never say that, never restrict yourself to any one or two things, and never say you don't like something before you try it. Because you will never know how far you can go unless you're willing to sit there and give it a shot. And then after you've given it a shot, it could completely transform how you see things and experience things. And that's really important, because you really never know where the inspiration's going to hit you.
Obsessive inspiration.
Random inspiration.
Yeah. Too much inspiration is never bad inspiration.
Trust in the Force, man. That's how the Force works.
Right, ending on that Star Wars note, I know you got a panel in about half an hour or so.
I gotta go run and tell people about Japanese animation from like 1915.
All right, Mr. Dunbar, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad I can help. Sorry, I gotta run.
Oh, no, okay.